Welcome. My name is Gary Solomon, and you're watching the Laidback Bike Report. Hi guys, it's great to have you all with us today. We have a jam-packed show for you, and I can't wait to tell you about what we have in store. First of all the way from Shanghai, China, it's Joerg Gebers. This is a gentleman who you might have seen a story about online. He rides what is purportedly the first Velomobile in China. It's a Quattrovelo, and he was stopped by the Chinese police. All kinds of interesting parts to this story. We're going to get into it for you and look forward to talking to Joerg. Next, we have Fabrizio Cross. We call him Tig because it's easier for me. And he's going to tell us all about his amazing build design. It's called the Electrom, and it's an assisted cargo bench, you might say. So really interesting bike there, and that's going to be fun to watch. We have a guest that is returning after about 5 years. Our first year on the Laidback Bike Report, we had Shelly Mossey with us telling us about his tours through New York City as he worked for a particular company that catered to Dutch folks coming to the States. And he has a rich recumbent background there in New York City. He now owns that company and also has a bike shop associated with it. So we look forward to talking to Shelly Mossey. And finally, someone who has been supportive of recumbent efforts all over the country that we have talked about on the show many times. Her name is Jane Knight, and she's going to talk to us about recumbents from a lady's point of view. And we look forward to talking to Jane from Texas a little bit later on as well. All right, I think it's time to meet the wonderful crew that assists me today. There we are. First of all, from Colorado Springs, Colorado, it's Larry Seidman, our director today. Hey, Larry.
Hello, everybody.
Good to have you with us, in charge of things. Thanks, Larry. Then down in Big D, Dallas, it's Mr. Wizard himself, Doug Davis. Hello, Doug.
Hey, Gary. Good to be here.
And glad to have you as well, my friend. All right, down in Jackson, Mississippi, it is Trey Burgoyne handling the media today. What's up, Trey?
Howdy ho, folks. How y'all are?
And from Bonn, Germany, a recurrent guest, a guy we love to have on the show. He knows probably more about Velomobiles than anyone except for maybe Mr. Wizard. That would be a contest right there. We're not going to do that today. It is Josef Janning. Hello, Josef.
Good to be with you, Larry. You see the last bit of the evening sun on my face here, so I'm not going out of the sun because it will disappear soon enough.
Yes, well, everyone says you're a bright guy, and clearly that is the case this evening. So, yeah. Thanks for being with us, Josef. We appreciate that. All right, guys, let's talk a little bit about how you can participate in today's show. For those of you who are watching live, we have a live chat that accompanies the show, and we love to have your contributions on that live chat, whether you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube. Let us know, first of all, where you are watching from, and then you can participate by asking questions, making comments, just chatting with your fellow recumbent riders there on the chat or with our panelists. Participate. It's important. We're glad to have you all with us on chat. Now, if you would like to support what we do here at the Laidback Bike Report, you can do so in a number of ways. First of all, please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on our YouTube channel, and don't forget to click the little white eye that's up in the corner there, and that will take you to our website where you can get lots more information on the Laidback Bike Report. And most importantly, become a Patreon patron if you are so inclined. You can become a patron and support us for as little as $1 a month. So we'd appreciate if you would do that. All right. Also supporting the show are our amazing sponsors. We really love to have these guys with us every month, and we hope you will support them. First of all, TerraCycle, makers of exquisite recumbent parts and accessories for your bent, and trailside.bike, a fine recumbent bike shop on the Withlacoochee Trail in Florida, and Cruzbike, designed for the cyclist who wants to ride farther, climb faster, and adventure more. All cruise bikes and frame sets ship free in the USA. And TerraTrike. Wherever your ride leads, TerraTrike has a trike to take you there. Now, including KMX carts and Greenspeed. How much fun can you handle? And the Hostel Shop, America's premier recumbent dealer with the largest variety of recumbents, parts, and accessories in stock and ready to ship to your door. All right, guys, we are going to start off, as promised, in Shanghai, China, with our new friend, Joerg Gebers. Joerg, are you there? Let's go ahead and bring him up if we got him. There we go. We thought we lost you there for a minute. Hi, Joerg. It's so nice to have you with us. We appreciate you being on the Laidback Bike Report today.
Thanks. Thanks for having this chance telling my story.
All right, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So, folks, I just might mention briefly that we had, Doug and I had the opportunity to speak with Joerg on Thursday. We never know for sure whether things are going to work out on the webcast on Sunday today. So we wanted to get his story on video. So we did that. It is posted on the Laidback Bike Report YouTube channel, and you can watch it there. It's pretty much in depth. So if you want more information and more details, you can go there. But we're going to go through his story briefly here today and then make this more of an interactive time with Joerg. And you can ask questions, and we'll ask some questions and get some more details that go over and beyond what we talked about on Thursday, Joerg. So let's start out with that. Joerg, if you could tell us a little bit about your story getting to China, what happened with your Velomobile, and then we'll go from there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yes. So I'm a German, located in Shanghai since 2016, and last year I started thinking of how will I go back after my assignment here in Shanghai and will end. And I came to the result that I would like to do this with a quattro velo, but it's not only me. It's me, my son Jonathan, and a friend of mine. So this is why this friend of mine and me, we did some test rides in Dronten in the Netherlands. And by the way, on the way back, this was March last year, we stopped in Bonn and had a coffee together with Jupp, so Joseph. So this was very nice. So now to meet him again. Yes, so luckily, Velomobile.nl, they made it in time. So the Velomobiles have been finished before in Europe the lockdown started, and we got the Velomobiles out of the Netherlands, and they arrived and went out of customs here in Shanghai end of May. It was only 2 Velomobiles left because my friend decided to get out of this project because Corona was already mixing up Europe heavily, and there was, of course, a clear sign that this trip will be under big difficulties. Nevertheless, the 2 Velomobiles made it to my home. One is still parked in our living room down there, and the other one is at the moment at my company. So what happened to the other one, which is mine? So after end of May, I started riding it in Shanghai. I did about 400 kilometers up to now, sometimes commuting to the company,
Yeah, let's go
sometimes
ahead and
doing.
start those slides if we could to accompany this. There we go. And there's the Velomobile.
Yes,
So go ahead.
this is my parking lot at the company, for example. Yes. So I got used to ride this Velomobile in Shanghai, and I really did like to ride it because there is a special lane beside on every road. There is a special lane for the e-scooters and the bicyclists in Shanghai, mainly used now by e-scooter riders. So bicycling is not that common anymore in this city. So and people really did like or do like this Velomobile. So they ask me a lot of questions on every crossroad. Of course, the first one, is there a motor? The second one, where is it made? The third one, usually, how much is it? And so they are very positive, very interested in that. And it is my first Velomobile, so I was never riding Velomobile in Europe before. And I got used to this highly efficient bicycle, and I really did like to ride it. So this was exactly that evening, 13th of June. So this was Tuesday, the week before last week. Evening, after finishing my work at 6 o'clock, I left the company and tried to ride home. And on one of the big crossroads, I was catched by the police, or not catched by the police, but they were asking me to stop because this kind of vehicle is not allowed to ride on Shanghainese roads. And this is now showing 3 of the policemen. In the end, there have been 6. And in the beginning, we were discussing whether there is a motor in or not. I tried to convince them there is no motor, and they got the story. Then we were discussing about how many wheels may a bicycle have in Shanghai, whether it's 3 or 2 or 4. So 4 seems to be too much. Then there was coming up a towing car. I said, oh no, with this towing car, my Velomobile will be totally damaged. And finally, we came to the decision. I ride the Velomobile to a place where it can be locked, and a policeman was accompanying me in the front, and the towing car was following me. I was able to get back my bicycle last
Let's go ahead and
Saturday.
look at that shot where it was. Do we have one where he was locked up?
Okay. Yes, so I picked up my bicycle on that Saturday and went to the police station, and they told me, okay, this Velomobile is categorized in the category of others. This is what is shown here. This is category of others, is a under category more or less of motorized vehicles. So
So
we
this
still
is
have
your
a
citation. I'm sorry.
yes,
This is your
yes,
citation. This is what it looked
yeah,
like, right?
yes.
Okay.
Um, yeah. I'm not allowed to, at the moment, I'm not allowed to ride this Velomobile anymore on Shanghainese roads. So what I did after I got it back, so I went to this place where it was locked, and I got it back after paying a fine of 100 RMB, which is about $15. Yes, this is the place where it has been locked. And I pushed it back to my company.
All right.
This
We have a
is
little video of that. Can we play that, Larry? So you weren't allowed to ride it, so this is what you had to do.
yes. Yeah, it's funny because on the way back I met policemen, or even getting out of this locking area, there have been policemen, and even they took some pictures with me, and they asked me why I don't go on the road and ride it home. So there is a lot of positive, let's say, a lot of positive attitude to this bicycle. And as I said, there is a lot of interest in it, but at the moment the status is cannot be ridden on Shanghainese roads, and that is what I follow.
Yeah.
So as I
Let
said,
me
it's locked
just,
at
if
the
I
company.
can here, this would be a good place to pause, perhaps, Joerg. So you had to walk it back, of course, because you weren't allowed to ride it, and there was a lot of interest in your Velomobile just as you were riding around. And then when the stop happened and people started taking pictures and the videos started popping up, now there's incredible amounts of interest. And we actually have a video that was posted in China that don't forget to unmute yourself so we can talk over this. And let's go ahead and bring Doug and Joseph in now too, if we could. First of all, Larry. Bring them on in here,
Yes.
and then we will. And guys, you need to unmute yourself as soon as we start this video as well. All right, Larry, go ahead and start this video. We can listen. You'll need to unmute yourself.
不可以开的，不可以开的，不可以开的，不可以开，把它扣掉哈，自行车。
Yeah, so this was me coming out of the company. This is my discussion with the policeman. Of course, a lot of people gathering around me. And
8,000 was 8,000 euros. Was that the price that they were talking about?
Yes, yes, this is exactly. This is what I said. How much it is?
车子上道路
These are
行驶
pictures
它安全
shown.
技术
So
不
when
符
there
合
is
上
some
道路行驶的一
electricity,
个条件，它会对群众，包括那个行
and
驶
in
的
the video
过
it
车辆
said there is
造
a
成的一定
generator
影
in
响
the。front
像
and
这样的
I'm
违法
pedaling
行
for
为，我们会先
electricity,
予扣留相应的
and
车辆，
this is feeding a
然后
motor in
对
the
情节
back.
轻微的处100元罚款。
All right, so that was
Okay.
that was played there. So Doug, if you can, tell us what that policeman was saying. Doug is fluent in Chinese. Doug, you're muted, buddy.
Sorry about that. And I think the policeman was basically saying what George just said. He's saying that this is an electric vehicle and it's not a registered electric vehicle and not allowed on Chinese streets.
And he's saying it had a motor, basically, right?
Right. They've said multiple times in multiple places that this was pedal generated electricity, and there's a motor in the back.
Okay, so let's pick up the story then Joerg, from there. So now you have plans or had plans to leave China fairly shortly. Tell us what the story is. Pick it up from getting that Velomobile back, and what were your plans?
My plans were to, in the beginning, this was mid of June, but now I extended my contract by 2 months, so now it will be end of August. We would like to leave Shanghai going westwards, mainly following one of the main roads of China, which is a big road called 312, which starts in Shanghai and ends up in the Kazakhstan border line in Kyrgyz. And then crossing Kazakhstan and then deciding whether we go for the north route. This would mean Russia, Ukraine, and then Poland, or going for a south route, which would mean crossing the Caspian Sea and then going for Azerbaijan, Georgia, and then crossing the Black Sea and going up the Danube River from Romania to Germany. So this is still my plan. And therefore, my son and me, we are working hard on our homepage.
Yeah, Doug, I'm sorry. Trey, go ahead and let's show those slides. We can talk about that now, I think. Yeah. And this is from the web. Is this from the web page?
Exactly. This is what we posted on our website. You can see the pictures out of the drawings, let's say, of our colleagues in the Netherlands, and then some pictures of me already taken in Shanghai. And on the right side, this was Jonathan during the test ride in Germany, in the Netherlands in March. So I couldn't join the test ride. So this was done by Jonathan, my son, and a friend of mine.
Okay.
By the way,
let's go to the next slide, Trey.
Yes. Okay, yes. So at the moment, I'm working on a very crazy looking solar trailer. So inspired by the sun trip of Florian Bailly, that was done from Lyon to Guangzhou in 2018. I came up with the idea, with this bicycling idea, more or less. But I was thinking I would like to do this in such an efficient velomobile, and adding some power in a streamline, more or less, trailer. A big solar trailer, and this is what I spend all my spare time at the moment on it, because it's taking a lot of time to get this running. But yeah, this afternoon I did a next test ride with my son in my compound. So at the moment I don't go on the roads with crazy vehicles. So I just stay in my living area more or less and do my test rides.
Okay.
Yes. So our plan is going home
Next shot,
CO2
please, Trey.
neutral.
Yep, there you go.
Yes, this is more or less our route. This is the northern route, which is shown here. So yeah, I'm really fascinated about this idea. Not getting into a plane in my Chinese world and then getting off the plane in my home country, but going every day 200 kilometers. This is our plan. We should make about 200 kilometers a day, 6 days a week. So there is one day left for a little bit recovery. But getting off the Velomobile every day, meeting different people, eating different food, hopefully having the chance to talk to some people and just understand, how people change step by step from Shanghai to Stuttgart. This must be a
That is
great
not only
a
a
great
long
insight.
journey in terms of miles and kilometers, but a long journey in terms of cultures as well, as you would go that distance, isn't it?
Exactly.
And then here's,
Exactly.
yeah, so this just talks a little bit more about the power output comparisons and such.
Yes.
So very
Yes. So what we do at the moment in China, our main focus is to explain what is a velomobile, why do I ride a velomobile, and yes, of course, there is no motor in, and this is not a big danger, I think, to this traffic situation. So if you look not on Shanghainese roads, but if you look on Chinese roads, there is a high variety of different vehicles. But of course, this is the city which is the most strict one, in limiting them. So there is a lot of even these e-scooters. The rules for the e-scooters, they change regularly, and then they have big controls where they and checkpoints where they check whether the scooters are still following the actual rules and whether they have to be blocked or not.
right. Joerg, let me ask you this. So I guess to finish up this part of the discussion, and then I'm going to open this up to more questions from our other panelists and to our viewers. If you have questions for Joerg, go ahead and pop them onto the screen. We've got a couple already. So how do you envision this ending, Joerg? You have this trip planned. You still hope to do this. So, and are you in contact with the authorities now? And how are you trying to get the idea of banning you on the streets in Shanghai changed so that you can at least get out of Shanghai and get on your way? How are you planning to do that?
Yeah. So yes, I have a team of colleagues. They run with me a Weibo page, which is Instagram of China, more or less. So and this is what we were concentrating on at the moment is getting the right information to the people so that we are talking based on the true story about this vehicle. What is the next? At the moment, I'm heavily confused, of course, and I'm really mixed up because everybody is telling me give up your plan now. It's time. This is too much obstacles you are now having. So just put your velomobiles into your container and that's it. In our pre-discussion, there came up the idea, and probably I will go for this. If there is no chance to ride this velomobile anymore in Shanghai, probably I leave them here and ask whether there are Chinese people want to buy it. So there is a trike rider in out of Guangzhou, a Chinese. He planned to participate in the Sun Trip. He got in contact with me via Florian, the organizer, and we are at the moment thinking whether we do even this trip together. Of course, I have other options than my velomobile because I have a trike in my garage. So there are options changing to a regular trike. There are options getting the velomobile out of the city, starting my trip not in Shanghai but in Jiangsu province. I'm not sure. So there are a lot of options we are considering, but at the moment, of course, we try to somehow start a dialogue with the officials, but this will be probably really, really difficult because this is the first, as it looks like, I'm riding the first velomobile in China, and therefore probably it's an example, and therefore. Um, can be that the priority is too high and my time too short to solve this issue.
Yeah, and I'm guessing the police look at it maybe from the standpoint, as I'm sure there's a few standpoints, but one I could see is that you can't see what's inside that Velomobile, and they probably wouldn't want to encourage more people with vehicles that they can't easily determine the method of locomotion on those things. So I don't know if that's it or not. Let's
no, but I don't think it's that this is a closed box and there will be some miracles in this I don't think. Otherwise they should get rid of a lot of cars. But I think it's more it's new. They really now the officials, they have to take time, or they need time to get familiar with this and how to handle this, and this is probably a challenge at the moment.
All right.
Doing this in a
So we have Imperfect Fourth, Recumbent Cycling and More, says Velomobile is legal in Hong Kong, but e-assist is not. So I guess that goes to show that there are some variances across China that you kind of mentioned, that you may, if you do end up getting out of Shanghai and riding the Velomobile, you could encounter more strict rules. You may encounter less strict rules as well, I suppose.
Yeah. So what I expect is there is much less strict rules outside of Shanghai. This is already feedback by a lot of Chinese people to me. So this is really, so yeah, I start riding a Velomobile in the most strict city for doing this, in this huge country. So this is worst case handling now.
Okay, Michael Smith, could you take the Quattro out of Shanghai by train? That's interesting.
No, not really. The trains, you would have to put it in a container, and by that time you might as well be shipping it somewhere else. The trains don't really have bicycles there like we do and see in Europe.
Okay. All right. Well, let's.
To be honest, I have a very crazy idea. As I said, I have a trike, or I have several trikes in my garage here in Shanghai, and I have a trailer. So I could even build with this trailer a towing trailer. So I could tow out my Velomobile with, by my trike. This would look probably very funny, but I don't want to do this at the moment because this will probably start the next discussion.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So now we have our panelists with us, and I want to hear from them any questions or comments they have. Josef, can we start with you? So you had you were one that got this started with me. I know you helped me get in contact with Joerg. Tell us briefly about how you know Joerg, and then what your contact was with him while he was in China, and what are your thoughts about all this?
Well, one day Joerg approached me because I have acquired a little bit of a reputation here for long distance touring by Velomobile. And so he got interested in it. So he thought if he would discuss that with me, I could give him some advice, because I ride different models, and I also owned at the time a Quattro Velo. So actually I could probably help him find answers to some of his questions, to find a suitable Velomobile for that kind of journey. Because that's a challenging thing. That distance, you need something, and we discussed back and forth about reliability, about the advantages, about the specifics of the Quattro Velo that would make it very suitable, and so on. And I tried to encourage him to think about this as a doable project, because 12,000 kilometers is a huge distance. And 200 kilometers a day, 6 days a week, is something that if you're not used to it, used to Velomobile riding, you don't really think it is possible for a trained but still normal person. And it is possible. It is doable. It has been done, and it can be done. So I think I could give him that encouragement to pursue the project, and I'm happy that it went on, and we've been in loose contact since then. And we also talked a lot about the assist question. Should you add assist or should you not? because also most people who think about these distances and these daily legs, they think it must have e-assist. It can have e-assist. And actually, maybe we should talk about it. There's an interesting project that Alva Henriksson in Sweden is doing now with his Quattrovelo, but you can also do it without.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw Alva's posting on Facebook with a similar type of setup, not quite as extensive as what Joerg had, but the solar panels tilted on a trailer kind of idea. And he claimed, I think in today's post, that he was able to travel some distance and end up with more battery storage when he got done than when he started, I guess.
He has a Quattrovelo that has a Bafang e-assist. And I think he has about 150 or 160 watt peak on his trailer, and it's a one-wheel trailer and he can turn the panel into the direction of the sun.
Yeah.
And so he's been touring, and he's trying to be off-grid, charging both the batteries for his e-assist and all the others like phone and GPS device. And so far he reports that this is the Swedish summer, where you have days with 20 hours of sunshine. So far it works. I don't know if it would work throughout the seasons, but in the moment it works. It
kind of proof of concept anyways. So and
Alf
is there. He said hi, by the way, so he's watching right now. So hello, Alf. Good luck on all that, and thanks for tuning in. All right, let's go to Doug. Doug, you were instrumental in helping me get all this going with Joerg and some of that media, which was nice to be able to show. Tell us what your thoughts about all this are. And I should also say, of course, is you have deep roots and experience in China as well. So tell me what your experience and your thoughts are about this.
Well, I mean, echoing what everybody else has said, Shanghai is the strictest city for this. I've ridden bicycles all over China, recumbents in particular. I've been stopped, chased down, flagged down by police on my P38 several times because it's unusual. And anybody who's a little familiar with China's culture is that unusual things tend to attract attention, not necessarily the right kind. I've thought about bringing a Velomobile over several times and have been advised against it because of that. Although I'm hoping that Joerg can help pave the way for this. I think right now we're dealing with a perception problem. In China, it's very easy for laws to change very quickly and the police to interpret them a lot differently than we do. In the Western and European states, our rules are very strict and very understood and very rigid. They're interpreted through the court systems. In China, they're interpreted on the street. So what the police were saying, and we've seen reports of, that this was an unregistered e-bike. And in Shanghai, not necessarily all of China, but in Shanghai, e-bikes have to be on a list of permitted vendors, and they have to have a license and a registration which you get from the police. So the path they took is that this was an unregistered e-bike, and therefore we can fine him for not having the license plate, which is basically effectively what happened there. Now you have George has got a couple of things to solve. One is the proof that it's not an e-bike, which is harder than you would think, because you have somebody who's an authority figure who has said it's an e-bike. We saw the pictures of that. And so now you have to back your way out of that in a way where the authority remains what they call face. He still maintains his face for that. And then you're going to have to convince the traffic bureaus there, and to some extent maybe even along the route, that this is a bicycle. So what happens over the next 30 days or so is really going to set the groundwork for being able to complete the trip that George would like to do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You know what? I think I'm going to add, Tig, you need to probably unmute yourself, but did you have I saw you had a question also for Joerg. Go ahead.
Oh, hi. Hey, Joerg. Yeah, I just, one of the observations I had here in North America, because of the auto pact, if a vehicle has 4 wheels and a motor, it's automatically a motor vehicle, full stop, which is why there are so many trikes and 2-wheel e-bikes. Were the police in Shanghai specific about whether it was because it had 4 wheels? Was that a big part of the problem?
This was the second part of the discussion. So I spent about 1.5 hours on that crossroad, because the 2 policemen who were working on this crossroad, they asked experts to come. So in the end, we have been 6 all together. And in the beginning, we were discussing about the motor. And in the end of the discussion, it was about number of wheels or whatever. Yes, so they were asking me how many wheels. I said 4, and I said, bicycle is 2 wheels.
Right.
So I said, I don't know. It can be, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty of trikes and human-powered vehicles of who knows how many wheels in China. I mean, you see them everywhere. It's literally covered up with them. 4, 5, 6, 8, 12 wheel. I mean, I've seen, and they're all human powered. So,
at that point, he was reaching for excuses, I think, again, maybe to save face, as you were saying earlier. So, but all right, Tig, I'm going to send you back.
I think I'm on the way. I think I'm on the way to get a bicycle because, in this movie we just had a look on, it's showing me getting out of the company and then staying on the road, not going on the bicycle lane because there was a commuting bus parking on the right side. So I decided, okay, anyhow, I have to turn left. So I stay on the road and then go for the bicycle lane. And this was already blamed. So I should go on the bicycle lane. And this is what I did in 95% of my bicycling here. So of course I will strictly follow this rule now and stay on the bicycle lane.
Yeah, they've gotten very, very strict about that in several of the provinces. I've had trouble too because as you know, the bicycle lanes are very, very packed and crowded and very slow. And I've been chased down riding my bike around the bicycle lane just to get around the crowd of people and out in with the traffic, which is moving at 30 kph anyway, which is pretty easy to maintain. And I've been run down by police before for exiting the bicycle lane and given ticket for not being on the bicycle lane, being on the motorway. So that's very possible that could have exacerbated some of that.
All right, Trey, could you back up one slide, please, for me and do that police stop picture? I want to finish up with, do we have that police? Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Guys, I think we're going to probably have to leave it there. So I want to remind our viewers that we had that extensive talk on video with Joerg. That's the thumbnail. That's the video you'll see on our YouTube channel. And so I encourage you, if you want to learn more about what happened to Joerg, to go ahead and watch that video. He does go into much more detail there, but it's a fascinating story. And Joerg, I can't thank you enough for taking the time and jumping through the hoops that I know you need to jump through there in China to get on with us and tell us the story. We appreciate it so much. We wish you a lot of luck, and we'll stay in touch. I hope you do get on your way with this epic journey. And if so, we will want to talk to you again and find out how it went and see how it went. So thank you so much, Joerg.
Okay, thanks a lot. So if you want to get updated about my trip, my son is running a homepage which is called longwayhome2.eu. Okay.
And that's the one that we have the slide for, and I will put that in the description below. So folks, you'll be able to follow that as well.
Okay, sorry, on that slide, there is a wrong name of the homepage, so I can send you an update.
Just send me, no, you're fine. Send me that link. I'll make sure it's the correct one. Absolutely, Joerg.
Okay.
Thank you so much, and we will talk again soon, I hope.
Okay. Thanks for having this chance, and I'll keep you updated. Bye.
Thanks. That sounds great.
Good night.
Good night. Yeah, you can get some rest. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning there in Shanghai, so... All right, folks, let's go ahead and move on now. And our next guest, you kind of saw him briefly there. It is Tig Cross, and Tig has developed and built a very unusual recumbent bike called the Electrom. It is e-assisted, and even that is a very interesting aspect of what he does. He's developed that as well. So I'm excited to have him tell that story. So let's go ahead and bring Tig on here. Hello, Tig.
Hey, Gary, how are you?
You're muted again, pal. Just go ahead and unmute yourself.
No, I think I'm
there.
unmuted.
We go. Yeah, you're fine.
All right.
No, you're good now.
Hey,
I can hear you fine. Good. So thanks for coming on, and let's start a little bit, if we can. We'll start a little bit about your background. I think that'd be good. Tell us about your educational background and your professional background.
Oh my! Well, like many bike people, I don't have a significant formal education. I grew up in a very mechanical household. My father's an engineer, and he was bike crazy. So I was immersed in bike life pretty much from day one. And I grew up on a small Gulf island here in British Columbia, and the only way to get around was by bike. And so we basically grew up on bicycles. I bought a bike shop here. There's only one on the Gulf island I live on. When I was 20, and I ran that for 10 years. And definitely, nothing like owning a bike shop to really up your mechanical chops.
That is for sure. Tell us where you are exactly.
I'm on Hornby Island, which is one of the Gulf Islands, which are kind of the northern extension of the San Juan Islands in the United States. Islands between Vancouver Island and the mainland.
Beautiful. Yeah, I've been to the San Juan and ridden there. It's beautiful. All right, super. Why don't we start with the slideshow, and you're going to take us through the progression of the development of your ideas. So let's start at the very beginning and tell us how the idea popped into your head, where it came from, and then you can tell us about the first version.
You bet. Well, yeah. So this is version 1, we'll call it, although I didn't realize I was embarking on this journey at the time. This is a Varna short wheelbase recumbent. It's built by George Georgiev, who his Diablo actually used to own the land speed record for human powered vehicles. And this was a very sweet little bike. But the guy I bought it off of, just after I bought it, informed me that the reason he was selling it was because he had damaged his knees. What with the backrest of a recumbent, you have something to push against, and he felt that he had kind of overextended his knees by having that backrest. And so that put the idea in my head of like, well, that doesn't sound like much fun. And the Gulf Islands are quite hilly, so I started looking around for some kind of assist, and I ruled out a gas motor quite early because as a cyclist, one of the things that's really important to me is the silence. And I found the only kit available at that time, really, there was the Heinzmann bike, and then there was the Zap hub motors, or not hub motors, the Zap friction drive. So that's what's on there.
Okay, yeah, and Tig, just let me interrupt for a second. You go ahead and tell Trey when it's time. I think you know the slides pretty well. You can just tell him to go ahead to the next slide.
So now it looks like we moved on to version 2. So version 1 got me thinking, what I didn't like was that I was constantly shifting through the gears to match my human energy to the speed the Zap motor wanted to take me. And that got me to thinking about how I wanted to have something that would allow me to just pedal all the time in a constant cadence without having to shift gears to match my human energy to the speed the bike was going. So that started the generator drive, which was, this is the first version you see here. The generator in this vehicle is an old Amatec 72-volt tape drive motor from a computer mainframe from the 70s. It was the only thing I could find that would spin at a low enough RPM and produce the voltage I was looking for. I was running a 48-volt system at the time. And then the actual motive force, the power in this, was coming from a gigantic electric motor, a DC motor called an E-Tech. It was made by Briggs & Stratton, and it was a licensed version of the famous Lynch pancake motor that's present in a lot of electric motorbikes. So this thing was incredibly powerful. It would get up to about 90 kilometers an hour in about 8 or 9 seconds.
Nobody has one of those.
Completely illegal and terrifying to ride because though a short wheelbase recumbent is a beautiful thing in terms of a compromise of maneuverability and weight, just not very stable at 90 kilometers per hour.
I can imagine, yeah.
And so interesting. My wife actually worked for the Canadian International Development Agency, and we were overseas at the time with diplomatic immunity. So that was great because it allowed me to ride the thing and test it quite extensively. We were in Honduras, and Honduras is kind of the opposite of China in terms of Joerg's problem. They have laws, but there's very little enforcement. And psychotic gringo cruising around on a death trap is perfectly fine by them.
So that was the perfect testing grounds for you.
It was pretty good. And it was hot and dry. So, lots of time to ride.
All right, let's pop on, I guess, maybe to version. Well, yeah. So
that's the whole thing. So you can see at the time I was running lead acid batteries, and you can see the E-Tech motor in the back there, and it was a belt drive, which was quite nice, relatively silent, and that's with its body stocking off. I had built a kind of a fabric skin that covered the whole mess up. But yeah, I'm running 20-inch wheels, big, beefy BMX tires. It was pretty roadworthy considering it was a short wheelbase. But it was carrying 140 pounds of lead acid batteries, which, though stable because they were nice and low, it gave it a lot of momentum.
And in case somebody needed a jump, you were able to help them out there. All right, let's go to the next. Oh, there's the fairing. Yes.
Yeah. So that's the cloth skin on top, and as any of your viewers who are Velomobile aficionados know, such a big difference is made with just a little bit of fairing. I wasn't really able to do a lot of analytical study of this bike just because I wasn't running controls that allowed me to measure the energy very well, but it certainly felt faster with the fairing on it.
And when was this, Tig?
This bike, I rode this bike until 2007 when we left Honduras. I felt I had learned everything there was to learn from it. And a colleague of my wife's had a son who was very interested in robotics. So I gave him the bike and the Amatec tape drive motor and everything else. I kept the E-Tech motor. I brought that home with me. And that went into the next vehicle.
Okay, let's go on.
So this is version 3. I'd upgraded to lithium iron phosphate batteries. I'm still riding the E-Tech motor, but I had shifted to a more robust set of motorcycle wheels. These were off of one of those little pit bikes. This thing, I was obsessed with range. So I put together this battery pack to give myself an 80-kilometer range. But even though they were lithium, this also ended up being very heavy. To be honest, I never got as far as to even put the generator drive on this one because my wife's next posting took us to Rwanda, and there was no way the shipping company was going to ship my lithium batteries to Rwanda. So I had to put the project on hold while it sat in my garage.
All right.
And then while in Rwanda, I got a hub motor kit, brought it with me and put it on a bike. And I realized that modern e-bike hub motors were powerful enough now to do what I was looking for.
Well, that next shot actually is still version 3 anyways.
Yeah. So
that's
I came back and I modified version 3 to now accept a bicycle hub motor. That's a Crystalite Crown hub motor in the back there. And I thought to myself, well, maybe this generator drive thing is a little crazy. The bicycle chain drive has been around for a century. It's the most efficient form of transportation known to man. I should go back to that. So I created basically a transmission using a roll-off speed hub. So the human energy was passed through a roll-off and then passed to the back wheel. And any of you who've had a roll-off know it's an amazing piece of machinery, 14 perfectly spaced gears. But even with the roll-off, what I found was with an e-bike, you get up to cruising speed so quickly, and especially in city driving where you're stopping and starting all the time, you are constantly shifting up and down through the gears. And this kind of confirmed for me that the generator drive was something worth pursuing. All
right, let's go on to the next one and start talking about that.
Yeah, so that takes us to version 4. And what I did was, there are a number of other companies and individuals out there who are using electric drives. Basically, the idea of a generator drive is the human pedals a generator, and the force travels via electrical cable to the controller and then is turned into motive force.
And we do have a video of the generator. When you're ready, you tell us when we can show that video when you get to that spot.
What I realized is that here in British Columbia, we have pretty decent power limitations. We're allowed to draw up to 1,500 watts for acceleration and for hill climbing. But that I really didn't want to go with a pure electric drive because I didn't want to have any discussions with law enforcement as to whether this was really a bicycle. The regulation here is a little vague. It says that the e-bikes must have working pedals. So that's a pretty broad definition. They don't say what work the pedals must be doing. But I didn't want to have that discussion on the side of the road with a policeman as to whether I was legit or not. So I figured out kind of a hybrid system where the human energy goes from the cranks down to a transfer hub and is split in two directions and goes to the generator as well as to the back wheel with one very low gear.
All right. Maybe this is a good time. You can talk over this now. So let's, Larry, if you're ready with the generator drive video, and don't forget to unmute yourself when we start. You'll probably be muted when the video starts. So unmute yourself and we can talk over it. Go ahead.
Okay.
All right.
So this is how the generator and chain drive works. We've got the transfer hub, passes energy up to the generator, as well as to the back wheel via chain and just one very low gear. This allows me to help the bike up to speed. But once I'm over about 15 kilometers per hour, my energy is just going into the generator and I pedal at a constant cadence, just enjoying the ride. So this is showing it descending and pedaling. I am not actually going any power on the motor, but I'm producing 91 watts. SW stands for solar watts. And here I'm going into a corner. I'm going to hit the brakes and decelerate. And I'm actually putting 2 kilowatts back into the battery, but I'm still generating 124 watts myself. So the nice thing is that allows you to pedal all the time, regardless of the speed of the train. Now I'm climbing, and I've slowed down below the 15-kilometer speed. And you see that I'm not generating any electricity because all my human energy is going into getting the bike up the hill. Now I'm picking up speed. I'm generating 41 watts, and I'm at 16 kilometers per hour. And as I get going faster, all of my human energy is now going back into the generator. I'm producing 141 watts and drawing 1,487. And what you notice there is I didn't shift any gears or throw any levers to make this change happen. If we can pause the slideshow there.
Yep.
So that's what's really cool about what I'm now calling the generator and chain drive, so GCD. What's really cool about it, and to be honest, an unintended side effect, was that the human energy is there to help the vehicle up to speed when the electric motor is at its least efficient, when it's at very low RPM. As well, when the vehicle drops back below that 15 kilometer per hour speed where the back stops freewheeling, my human energy is now helping grind the bike up the hill. Now, I'm not doing this by myself, right? The motor is still putting out the maximum it's allowed to under law, and my human high torque energy is just helping push it up the hill. But as I said, the system is seamless. It's just relying on the freewheel and the back wheel. So I don't have to do anything to make this happen. It just slows down. When my pedaling slows below 80 RPM, the generator that I'm using stops generating, so I'm not working against that. All of my energy is just going into helping the motor get the bike up the hill. As soon as I crest the hill and speed up, now I'm going over 15 kilometers per hour, and the back chain drive is freewheeling again, and all of my human energy is going into the generator. And there's a number of benefits to this. One of the biggest ones is that chain drive, and this is especially true on long wheelbase recumbents and velos, it's a lot of chain. It stretches really easily, and you tend to wear out drivetrains. With the generator chain drive system, that drivetrain is almost never under any stress. So I've never had to change a chain. The prototype had about 8,000 kilometers on it before I retired it when I built the new one. And the chain had only stretched by about 50%, as in it was through 50% of its life, and 100% means you're supposed to replace the chain.
All right. So the generator drive is a huge part of what this is all about. This is one of the more innovative parts. So really interesting stuff. So you want to finish up on the generator drive before we go on?
Yeah, well, just I think it's one of those things that unfortunately, obviously, it's not going to work in every bicycle.
All right. And
you need some room.
There we go.
Oh, am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Go ahead. You're good.
So yeah, I mean, the generator drive is unfortunately, I mean, it's just not going to work on every type of bike. It'd be hard to find the space to put one in a conventional upright bike. But it works great in any kind of recumbent bike where you've got that extra space. Well, any kind of long wheelbase recumbent, where you got that extra space. What's really nice about a recumbent position as well is that it gives you somewhere nice and low to put all that battery weight. In fact, on the Electrom, 90% of its weight is at or below the axles, so it handles beautifully. With the generator drive as well, combined with the recumbent position, my pedaling station is elevated, so I never have to worry about pedal strike on the ground around corners. So all of these things contribute to the fact that I pedal all the time, whether I'm going uphill or downhill or cornering or decelerating, I'm always pedaling. So although I have electric assist and I get places much faster, the quality of exercise that I enjoy while I'm getting there is still very high.
Very good. Okay, let's go ahead through the slides and talk more about the build here and the other aspects. And then we've got a nice long video for you to talk over to kind of sum up all the highlights of this as well. So yeah. Go ahead to that. Okay, let's pick up with this slide if we can take.
So this is the prototype frame for when I really knew what I was building. This is a carbon fiber over Baltic birch aircraft ply design that I came up with. You can see in the bottom of the fuselage there is tons of room for everything: batteries, controllers, the generator drive, the transfer chain, everything. And this frame is still going strong. It lives in my shop up here, and every once in a while I take it out. It's just bomb-proof. It's because I was working with kind of unknown materials, I overbuilt it.
Okay. Let's go on to the next one. All right. So now there's a good look at the kind of the finished product, would you say?
Yeah. Well, so this is the finished prototype. What I determined once I knew I was going to attempt to make something for the general public, I thought I would need to raise some money, and I thought to do that I need to show people a finished sample of what I was looking to build. So this is the finished product. I didn't make proper plugs and molds for this bodywork. It was done just using what's called the lost foam technique, which is where you carve the shape you want in styrofoam, cover it in fiberglass, and then carve the foam back out. But I also knew that my design was very likely to change, and so putting the time into making molds just would be a bit of a waste of time.
Okay, let's go on to the next one.
And so this is after riding the prototype for 3 years and 8,000 kilometers, I learned a lot, and it was time to make the version I was going to release to the public. So this is my friend Robin Coop, and then the welder there. Oh my gosh, it's terrible. I've forgotten his name. Toby. This is Toby of Toby Cycle Works welding the what we'll call the sample frame together. So this is what I am hoping to release to the general public. It is a laser cut and bent aluminum sheet metal frame with some tubing. And you can see the actual basic design didn't change too much. The biggest thing that's different from the prototype is that it's using 20-inch bicycle wheels. Instead of in the prototype, I was using 10-inch scooter wheels. And I discovered that those 10-inch scooter wheels were kind of overkill. They were way heavier than needed. And they really got in the way of people identifying with it as a bicycle.
Yep. Pushy hog, be patient. Yes, the answer is yes. You're going to see all that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
As well, when you switch back to bicycle components, you enjoy access to much higher quality of components at a lighter weight. You know, bicycle disc brakes are very much more refined than what's available for motorcycles at the weight. And so this is the bare frame before I'd built any of the bodywork. You can see I'm running one battery in there, but there's actually room for two. I'm running the Grin Phase Runner controller at 72 volts. I'm running a Golden Motors rear wheel. I really love the Golden Motors wheel because it's a cast aluminum wheel, so it's bomb-proof. And I was looking for the biggest diameter motor in the smallest diameter rim I could find, because that adds to the torque, which allows you to keep the vehicle within the bicycle legal limits. Then I'm using an underseat steering and a remote steer. It has front and rear suspension, 4 inches of travel, and it's because it's a long wheelbase recumbent. It's just a dream on the road. It corners beautifully. It handles the potholes. I've taken it off road, and it actually handles that pretty well.
We're going to see live video. Well, not live video, but we're going to see some video of that. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Yeah, you guys will be able to see a lot of that. Okay.
Yeah, so this is
go ahead.
Making the plugs to make the molds for the bodywork. And
now, this is a good spot maybe to show that video of you making the tail box, right? So let's. If you're ready, Larry, go ahead and show the tail box video, and we can talk.
So this is the time lapse of carving styrofoam and basically carving styrofoam, and it was about a year in total. I mean, it was on and off work because I do have a day job, but about a year in total to actually shape the plugs, make the molds, and make my first set of bodywork.
Okay. All right, let's go back to the slides and we can continue from there.
Yeah, and that's the front footwell mold. So that the top part there supports the fairing, the front, the clear fairing, and then my feet are nestled inside there. And that's the first mold and first part to come out of the mold. Once again, that's the front footwell. And I've molded with 3 layers of carbon fiber and a layer of Kevlar and a couple of layers of fiberglass. Because it's basically it's a kind of a structural member. It has to hold a number of things. And yeah, it worked out really well. It's good, it's strong. I've smacked it a couple times. Here we have the finished bike. One of the other aspects that I really like is the forward mounted center stand. I can deploy that with my foot, and it makes getting on and off really easy, which we'll see in a video. And
let's go through these slides. I think you'll see some details here you can talk about if you want.
One of the things that was important to me, and part of the reason it's on 2 wheels, is I wanted to maintain a narrow profile to be able to take full advantage of a bicycle's privilege to get through traffic. I also, because I was on 2 wheels, I didn't have to worry about being super low because the fact is your surface area, whether it's sitting right on the ground or up off the ground, if you're on 2 wheels, you can keep that surface area fairly small. So the Electrom is maximum 24 inches wide, which is about the width of a lot of modern mountain bike handlebars. And I'm able to fully take advantage of all the bike lanes that are out there.
Next.
And not really freak people out when I'm approaching them. It's got a full complement of LED turn signals, lights, horns, brake lights. What I have found is that in order to share the road with cars, the more information we can give them, the better. And then, of course, rear view mirrors, which anyone who rides a Velomobile knows are just crucial to traffic safety. Not being surprised by the giant semi-trailer passing you is such an asset, especially on the highway.
Next one, Trey.
That's a close-up of the Grin Cycle Analyst V3. That's basically my dashboard. It tells me everything, and I do mean everything, about the state of the electrical system of the vehicle. It tells me my mileage, tells me the amps I've pulled out of the battery. It allows me to adjust my power usage. So for off-road situations, I can go into off-road power, which is higher than is legally allowed on the road. And then I've got, a couple of different settings for road. I've got my hyper efficient, lower speed, lower draw setting. And then I have my general around town, get up to speed quickly and run some errands kind of setting, which is what I run in most of the time in the city.
All right.
The Electrom has a 200-kilometer range, so I never run out of battery in the city. You know, I might do 50 kilometers of errands in a day, and I just plug it in at night to charge.
200. Wow. Okay.
And that's a close-up of the tailbox latch. One of the things when you're creating a new vehicle is you spend a lot of time online hunting around for the different components that nobody has ever thought of needing before. So the tailbox hatch has a pair of latches, and they're lockable. And it's got 100 liters of cargo space. So you can carry a lot of groceries, and you can carry your valuables in there and lock it down.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course,
we're going to see that very shortly too.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You know, a lock just keeps the honest people honest. So you'd be crazy to keep anything truly valuable in there.
Right. Next one. I think
And leave it for a long time. Mm-hmm. That's the front turn signal and the LED headlights. And another great thing, you know, with LEDs, the Electrom is carrying 3 kilowatts of power, and my whole lighting system draws just a little bit over 1 watt. So there's really no point in worrying about how much energy your lights are drawing, and you can be lit up like a Christmas tree, which definitely improves the safety.
Very nice. All right. Well, we have a couple videos to show here, which we have a lot of questions here that are about what does it look like? How do you get in and out? What does it carry? All that stuff. So let's start, Larry, if you're ready with the cargo rider one, and don't forget to unmute yourself, and we'll talk about this as well.
Okay.
Don't forget to pedal.
So this is my daughter, Madeline, and she is 16, which is the legal age for riding an e-bike here in BC. And she hasn't done a lot of riding on it, but she quite likes it. She wants one of her own. And you can see she's just pedaling gently there. The nice thing about the generator drive is it allows you to pedal as little or as much as you want. It handles corners pretty well. I had to coach her to use the signals, but she's using them. So this is her just navigating a cul-de-sac.
I don't know what you were riding to take this video, but it's killing you going up this hill, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, I was riding a conventional bicycle, and yeah, if you can hear me in there, I'm breathing really hard and dying. There's the center stand deployed. The fairing swings away for ease of getting on and off. And let's have a look at what she's carrying in the cargo hatch. Like any 16-year-old child, she has a pile of stuffies. I just needed something that would occupy a lot of space. So the cargo hatch carries about 100 liters of cargo, and if you have heavy stuff, you can put it nice and deep in the footwells and keep the weight down. As well, you'll see in a moment that the hatch pops off, and you can do other things with it.
Yeah, I don't think that was on that part of the video, but and also those you call them footwells. I don't know if we have a video of that either, but so you can also have a smaller person, child, sit in that rear position and feet down into the wells. Yes.
Yeah, and to us, they don't have to be all that small. My wife and I went for a cruise around the island yesterday, and she's an adult, not a large adult, but an adult. Yeah, they just climb in, and legs just sit nicely inside of the cargo hatch wells, and there's a little handle inside for them to hold on to protect their hands from the wind. And you know what's really nice about it is the passenger and the operator, their heads are actually quite close together, so you can have a chat while you're riding. And because the operator's head and body is quite a bit lower, the passenger has an unobstructed view of the road ahead, which apparently makes them way more comfortable than just staring at somebody's back.
All right. So I've got a question from Alv, who was checked in a little bit earlier. How big is the battery, and how long does it take to charge? So as it's currently constituted.
Yeah. So right now I'm running a pair of 20 amp hour 72 volt batteries, which gives me approximately 3 kilowatts of power. And charging is one of those things where people always want to know how long does it take to charge. It's really a function of how big your charger is. If I'm on the road, I take my bigger 10 amp charger. Like if I want to charge along the way, which I almost never do because 200 kilometers is a lot of range before you charge. But my 10 amp charger will charge that pack in about 4 hours. The 5 amp charger charges the pack in 8 hours. In the city, as I say, it's never an issue because I ride it all day and then plug it in at night, and the next morning it's charged and ready to go again. For longer trips, as I say, the 10 amp charger is my charger of choice. And well, the big trip I made to come up here, that was a 250 kilometer trip. And I stopped for lunch. And as I was stopped anyways, I stopped and picked up a little opportunity charge for an hour. And that gave me enough extra power to get here and finish the trip.
Very nice. All right. You know what? So we're going to continue with a few more questions, but we've got a video that goes for a few minutes. We can talk over it and people can get a better idea of what it looks like when you are riding. You can comment on that, and then we can also ask questions. So Larry, if you're ready, go ahead and do Tig's test ride video and talk over that one. Okay. All right. So these are some hill runs. Go ahead.
Running, they call it Mount Ptolemy in Victoria, BC, but it's more of a hill. And just doing some speed runs to test how the handling is at high speed. Being a two-wheel, it handles beautifully because you can bank into corners. So some of these corners I approached at upwards of 60 kilometers an hour. And especially when conditions are dry, it's just beautiful. It's the handling on the Electrom is a little bit like a cross between steering a boat, flying a plane, and riding a bicycle. It is different. Anyone who has ridden a bicycle can hop on the Electrom and start riding in about 5 minutes, but it does take about 2 weeks to really learn how to exploit the handling.
All right. Okay, a couple more questions. You kind of touched on this. You have any plans for additional security for people from stealing this?
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting. Right now, it's basically unstealable because people don't tend to steal things that they can't understand or don't know where they would sell. But it does have a key switch. And if I'm going downtown to a movie at night, for example, when we get to go back to movies again, I just throw a U-lock through the front wheel, and that prevents anyone from rolling it away. And it's heavy enough that the only way you could steal it would be to plan in advance and steal it with a pickup truck. A couple of guys loaded into a pickup truck. But I think in the long run, as I hope it will become accepted and widely adopted, I expect that a motorcycle-style security system with an alarm would be the way to go, because then, it's going to draw attention to it.
All right. So if this goes in, we're going to talk about production and sales and stuff in a minute. But can you modify this well enough to do something like this in the UK? Becky Taylor says it has to cut out about 15 miles an hour. What do you say about that?
Yeah. So that was one of the things I did plan in the beginning. To make the Electrom and the generator chain drive as adaptable to as many local laws as possible, because there's a myriad of laws out there. In Vancouver, BC, anyone who knows about e-bikes knows about Grin Technologies. They are early adopters of e-bikes, and they make some really high-functioning components, including the cycle analyst that I showed there. It allows you to basically adjust the power limits to the local laws. As well, there's a lot of jurisdictions that require a pedal-first concept, like a speed pedelec, where you must be pedaling in order for the motor to be active. And that would be simple to do on the Electrom. You just install a torque-sensing generator drive, a torque-sensing bottom bracket, which would force the rider to be pedaling before the electric motor would kick in. As well as in the UK, you can absolutely set the cycle analyst to shut power off at over 15 kilometers per hour.
Very good. How about brake lights? Have you thought about that?
They're there. There are brake lights. When I squeeze the brake lever, the brake lights come on. And then it's got running lights that are always on as well. I think I'll definitely add even more lights to the Electrom, because as I said, from a consumption point of view, there's no reason not to. I'm trying to be careful about where I put those lights on the tailbox hatch, because the tailbox hatch is removable, and as soon as you add lights, then you have to add a cable, which also then has to be undone.
Tig, what about if you're coming down this hill like you are now and you slam on the brakes because someone stopped short in front of you? Have you had that opportunity to see how?
Oh yeah.
Tell us about it.
When you drive in the city, you definitely have to be on your toes and ready to stop. It's got regenerative braking. So as you saw in that earlier clip, under full regen braking at high speed, it's putting 2 kilowatts of power back into the battery. So that's a huge amount of decelerative force right there. And then I'm running front and rear disc brakes. Currently, I'm running 160 millimeter rotors. And I think I am going to go up to 200 millimeter rotors because I would like a little bit more stopping leverage. But so far, the e-bike law here in BC is that must have brakes that will allow you to skid on dry pavement. And it will do that. You would not want to. Skidding a long wheelbase recumbent is a very bad idea.
Yeah.
But bicycle disc brakes, the modern mountain bike disc brakes are so modulated and so light and so dependable. Stopping on the Electrom is not a problem.
The LEDs, are they under the fairing, I think is what Michael's asking there, or are they mounted on the outside?
Yeah, that's kind of a cool feature I figured out. With a clear plastic fairing, when I painted it, you paint the backside of the fairing and you get this perfectly smooth finish on the outside. I masked out where the LEDs would be, did all my painting, and then pulled off the masking and then just put a light dusting of the same paint. And then the LEDs are underneath. And so when the LEDs are on, they shine through that light dusting of paint and illuminate the bike. But when they're off, all you see is the paint. So they're kind of invisible when off and then quite visible when on. Nice.
All right. That I think is a great wrap on the Electrom itself, and we can. I'm sure you'll be available to answer more questions about other details. But I think it's time to finish up with some information about your plans for marketing, sales, and such, because that I know is what you're after here. So this is going to be available to the public when? When is it going to be available?
Oh, you should know better than to ask a guy like me that, Gary. What I did to fund the creation of this final sample was I ran an Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign, and I raised about $20,000 to make this bike. And I have 5 beta test people that put down $500 to be first on the wait list. I wasn't comfortable taking a real chunk of money as a deposit because this is an experimental venture, and I didn't want people to feel like I was definitely going to, cross the finish line and get them a bike. But yeah, so those beta testers, I'm going to be starting work on their bikes probably midsummer, and I hope to try to deliver them by November of this year, but we'll have to see how that goes. COVID is really messing up my access to some of these parts. And once those beta testers have had the bikes for a couple of months and I've received their feedback, I will then probably start taking orders. I don't think I will do an Indiegogo or that type of order situation again. I'll probably just set up a link on my website and people will be able to put a deposit down to get into the wait list. There are a number of people that paid lesser amounts to be further down the wait list, and I'll probably give them some priority to allow them to move up the wait list if they want to give me a little bit more cash. So yeah, it will be sold as a kit, a user assembled kit. All of the parts that are inside of the Electrom are standard e-bike parts. It was really important to me that if my venture fails, I want anyone who buys one of these things to be able to find spare parts and not be stuck with some super exotic and odd thing that they can't maintain. It is designed to be very low maintenance. The chain doesn't wear out. I'm running really beefy. There's a cool thing that people might not be aware of. The 20-inch bicycle wheel is the same size as 16-inch motorcycle. So I'm running very high quality German-made Heidenau moped tires. The tires I'm running now have got 3,000 kilometers on them and are just starting to get broken in. So yeah, so my intention is to start selling bikes to the general public, hopefully by next spring. There'll be an opportunity to sign up for a spot on the wait list starting fairly soon. I'm quite sure I'm going to cross that finish line and start producing them. As I said, they'll be sold as a kit. It's really, it's at this point, the economies of scale are not there to mass produce them in any significant way. And this is a similar issue with Velomobiles, as most people know. Like there aren't enough of them sold to place a giant order in China. So there isn't really margin for a retail sales environment. I will probably be selling them direct to consumer as a kit. But I am hoping there's an opportunity for bike shops to get in on the action, either as assemblers and certainly as maintainers. And maybe if I'm successful and this becomes, one of the real transportation options for people in the future, we'll be able to produce them in a volume where there is room for a retail markup, and we can go beyond the direct to consumer model.
Okay, a couple of quick finish up questions. We didn't talk about weight. Do you have an idea of the weight?
Oh yeah, I sure do. So one of the things you've got to remember about electric assist is the weight becomes far less important. And that was something that I embraced early. I decided, okay, it's electric assist. If I'm allowed to power up to 1500 watts, well, that is about 10 times what I can produce continuously. So I focused more on ease of use, comfort, safety, convenience, all of those things. So to a bicycle rider, this is going to sound shocking. The Electrom weighs about 145 pounds. There is 50 pounds of lithium batteries in there. There is a 25-pound hub motor. There is a 10-pound generator. These things, they all add up. But what's actually kind of nice about it is all of that weight is super low, and it just adds to the stability of the vehicle on the road. Potholes and rough roads are no problem for it. With the big tires and all that weight, I find it handles everything.
Righto. And then let's see, of course, the question of the hour. So when next year comes along and you start production at whatever level you're able to do, and people are wanting to get one of these, how much are one of these kits going to cost?
I'm hoping to get them to market for about $8,000 US. That would be with one battery. The additional battery would add about $1,000. If you knew you were only going to use it in the city for up to 50 kilometers a day, then one battery would be fine. Although I do find two batteries is pretty nice, because the regenerative braking, one of the functions of that is that the more energy that the batteries can handle, the more regen braking you get. So two batteries can handle twice the energy. So yeah, so basically about $8,000 US for the kit, and then the shipping will be on top of that. And then about another $1,000 for the additional battery.
All right. And not sure you can really answer this yet, Velo Vlogger. How quickly will you be able to produce a kit once you're up and running? What do you figure the wait time might be?
Well, the wait time is really going to be a function of how many orders I have and how many people are on that list. But I'm hoping to be able to produce one Electrom per week. And that will be just me working on it initially. Obviously, I mean, if the economies of scale are there to set up a more complete shop and hire some employees, then we'll be cranking them out sooner. And as well, at this point, it's just been me pretty much. I have some partners who have helped me with the design. I have an engineer on board who's confirmed everything. But at some point, a business partner who can manage the business side of it and allow me to focus on the production side of it would really help speed things up. Because right now I'm making the videos, I'm doing the Facebook posts, I am building the bike, I'm doing all the testing.
Yeah, so it's pretty much a one-man show, and I know the feeling.
So with a lot of advice and a lot of help, and definitely I'm getting a huge amount of encouragement and support. But as anyone in the recumbent world knows, when you do something this weird, it's hard to convince a lot of people that what you're doing isn't just some kind of fantasy.
Yeah.
But I really do believe that society is ready. We're ready. The technology is there. Awareness is there. The environment is desperate for us to make the transition away from 5-passenger vehicles carrying one person and burning gasoline.
Absolutely.
And even the shift where, electric cars are beautiful, but we still are wasting a lot of space in roadway and tying up a huge amount of resources and parking lots and everything else, producing a 5-passenger vehicle that 90% of the time it carries one person around.
And as GoGo Chem says, you can pedal it. I mean, so don't discount the fact that it also is worthwhile to have the exercise involved with riding the bike and have the assists. It's an interesting combination, I think, Tig. So.
Yeah, the exercise is very important to me, and I hope it will be important to the people who buy it. The fact is, this was not designed as a cheater vehicle, like, it's electric, but it's supposed to have pedals, so I put pedals on it. It really is designed to be pedaled very comfortably and for a long time. For example, my trip up island, when I say up island, I mean up Vancouver Island, which is, it's like one of the biggest islands in the world. I know it is. But that was a 250-kilometer trip. It took me 5 hours, and I burned about 2,000 calories. But I was comfortable, and the next day there were no repercussions because it was just a gentle pedal the whole way.
Very nice. All right, Tig, any final thoughts? Let's, I think, leave it there. What are your final thoughts on this?
Well, I thank you very much for having me on, Gary. And of course, any follow-up questions that people have, they can email me directly, info@electrom.ca. It's a funny thing. I really like feedback, but I would caution people to carefully consider that, never having ridden it, hold off on the "I think you're going to do this or that" kind of observations, because you've really got to try it before you can cast judgment on it. Yeah, I thank you very much for having me on. I think this is the perfect audience for something like the Electrom.
I think so too, and we will keep following your story and catch up with you maybe next year and see what's going on at that time, and update our viewers at that point. So, Tig, thank you so much for taking the time to share the story of the Electrom with us, and we will stay in touch.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Gary.
All right, pal. We'll see you. Bye-bye. Okay. All right, folks, let's move along to New York City, where we are going to talk to my pal, Shelly Mossey. Shelly, pop on up here, buddy. Are you there? Larry, can you find? Larry's looking for you. He found you. There you go. Hi, Shelly.
Good afternoon.
All right, so folks, yeah, I mentioned earlier in the show that Shelly was going to be with us, and we did have him on earlier in the with the first year of the Laidback Bike Report, and we're going to kind of take off from where we left off there, Shelly. At that point, you were working for this Rolling Orange company, and as a tour guide, and you had a great recumbent background in history of bikes, which we'll get into a little bit, but subsequent to that, you had the opportunity, I guess, to actually buy this tour company and took it from there. So why don't we go to the slideshow if we can? And briefly, if you can, let's talk about the history of some of the things you did in the past, Shell.
Okay,
including this guy right here.
So this is way back when I was kind of renting recumbents out of my apartment, and I was the Urban Mobility Project. I got an email from Corey Remsburg's dad, Craig, saying that his son was going to be coming to New York. I had no idea who he is, to run the Mile of Heroes run from Chelsea Piers to Battery Park and back, and that they have permission to use a recumbent trike for the run, because Corey was did 10 tours in Iraq and was injured when he stepped on, I believe, on a landmine, and has spent years in rehab, and is currently traveling around. He travels around the world doing these events. And I said, sure. I got him a trike. That's my friend Joal's cat trike. for a couple of years, and then one day I had no idea who he is. I was watching the State of the Union with
Go to that next shot. Yep.
yeah, when Obama was giving this long introduction to this war hero and talking about what happened to him. And he said, "Corey, stand up, take a bow." And Corey stood up, and I'm like, "Oh man!" I yelled to my wife, "Rachel, that's the guy that I get the trike for every year, man. That's Corey. This is like, he's this big hero." And I was very excited. And since we've been getting him trikes for it's been about 6 or 7 years now. And since we acquired the TerraTrike Tandem with electric assist, I emailed. They were the first people I emailed, and I will be taking Corey around the Brooklyn waterfront greenway.
All right, let's go on to the next slide here. We're going to get to the bikes. Let's talk about some of your bikes. What the heck is that?
I don't know much about this. I was riding my bike around Red Hook, and I ran into another guy on a Gold Rush, which is like incredibly rare, almost never, like maybe once every 5 years. And we started talking, and he asked me if I'd be interested in this bike that he acquired from, I think it's from the University of Wisconsin, a Streamliner that he has in storage, and he's looking for somewhere to put it. So I said, sure, send me some pictures. And it turns out that they must have raced, somewhere in Battle Mountain at some point. It's built by a team of students.
You know what, Shelly? I wonder if it wasn't one of the ASME races. The American Society of Mechanical Engineering, and I've attended a couple of those races. That looks like what might have been
on the shell. It's got markings
of that
on the fairing.
Good. All right, let's go on to the next one here.
There it is.
Yeah. Oh, I see. So that was the the bike that, and this is the fairing part.
Right.
That okay, very cool. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Yeah, there you go.
So I'm going to have that in my shop.
So that'll be a nice. Now, speaking of your shop, so let's we can stay on this shot if you want, but let's back up a little bit. So when we left you last, those many years ago, Shelly, you were a tour guide using recumbent bikes, and you had a very work for an interesting company, this Rolling Orange company. Tell us about Rolling Orange at that point.
So I became a tour guide for Rolling Orange Bike Tours, which I was the only English-speaking guide. It's a Dutch company. They had about 5 or 6 Dutch guides. It's owned by a Dutch couple that had a bike shop in the Cobble Hill in Brooklyn called Rolling Orange Bikes. They sold only Dutch bikes. I became a tour guide for them, and about a year later ended up taking over the company. I raised I asked them if they needed a partner, because I wanted to reroute their tours because they were a little drab. So I asked about becoming a partner, and they said, well, we're going to be selling. Are you interested? And I'm like, yes, I'm interested. At that point, I had no job for like years. It was after 2008. We had nothing going on, and we managed to raise the funds through friends, a lot of old friends that worked for me as bike messengers, 20 years ago. And we managed to raise the money and bought the company.
All right. And so that was the tour company. And then I'm not sure I know. Tell me how that progressed into a storefront.
Well,
what happened?
Yeah. Okay. So they had closed the store, the bike shop. The rent was tripled. They said, we're getting rid of the bike shop. We're just going to do the tours. We had a warehouse space in Gowanus, Brooklyn, that was really warehouse. I mean, grungy, in the middle of nowhere. But it was a great space. It worked for us because there was no car traffic, no foot traffic, but people would just book the tours from Europe and just show up there. They would take the subway and walk the 2 blocks into Gowanus. A lot of them told me that they were a little afraid walking down our street, but that's how deserted it was. So we were doing the tours from there. So we lost our lease in December of last year. We found a storefront. We moved in January.
And let's go to that slide. Yep, there we go.
Right. We had a bit of a winter. We did some tours over the winter, and we're really looking forward to a great season. And then COVID happened, and we've been shut down for, since March 15th.
All right.
So we have the storefront.
Yep.
So I decided to try to do something else with it until the tours pop back.
And what was that something?
So I decided to try to enlighten my community by selling and becoming a recumbent, like Johnny Appleseed of recumbents, to turn people onto these bikes and have them sit down and maybe tootle around the block or whatever. And I contacted Rad Innovations, which I already had a relationship with, because I had sold a very expensive bike through them before, as I was just an individual in New York, a crazy recumbent guy who was helping somebody get a special bicycle, hand crank and foot crank. And they worked with me, and we managed to get the sale done. So I already had a relationship with them. So I contacted
And Rad Innovations, to remind our viewers, is David and Anya, and they are most well known for being the American distributor of Haza bikes, right?
Correct.
So and trikes. So all right, go ahead.
And there they are. So I contacted them, and they're very excited. And they, of course, didn't understand what I was doing, because I was a bike tour company, or they also had no knowledge that I was a bike tour company, because the last they heard from me, I was just a guy doing cargo bike deliveries and doing crazy recumbent stuff from my house. So after the dust settled, we came to terms, and I'm now a Haze dealer.
And there are some of the trikes.
Yeah, there's the beautiful machines.
Let's go on to the next shot here. Yeah. We're going to see, I think, some of there's
the Kettweasel.
Yeah, very nice.
Beautiful shot.
And now we're going to see. I'm sorry. Let me just set this up. So you have over the years had a tremendous number of different kinds of recumbents, and here we're going to show just a few of what you have that you have to rent out or to use for the tours at the shop. So let's go ahead and start with this TerraTrike Tandem.
So when I started doing this, I also became I'm also a dealer for Sun now, but I can't get any bicycles till like October. But I started to pick up a few pieces from Craigslist, which I thought would be really easy to ride around New York, and this is one of them. This is our new star. It's a TerraTrike Tandem, as you can see, with a Bionics electric assist on it. And it's so much fun. I just was riding it this morning. I took it up to Prospect Park. I did 2 laps with it, half without the motor. It's an amazing bike with the motor changes everything. Nice Bike E for beginners who want to just cruise. Our shop is right off the Brooklyn Greenway, so you can literally go 2 blocks and be out of car traffic and have about 6 or 7 miles of closed roadway to yourself, to bike lanes. Nice. So if you're nervous on a recumbent, it's a great place to learn. I picked this up for for $70. $70.
Unbelievable. All right,
unbelievable. Yeah, man. The old days on our ad bikes. This is what I was doing before Rolling Orange and after my messenger business. And I don't know how this didn't work, but we had a few good years. And then 2008 hit, and goodbye. Actually sent those back to Europe. Nobody here wanted them.
Okay, next.
Jason? So in the last shot, Jason was the first ad bike guy that I hired. And that was about 15, 20 years ago. And this is where he ended up.
That's Jason Dubin, right?
Dude, Jason Dubin, yes.
And
the
yeah,
famous...
if you guys follow him on Facebook, he's had so many crazy adventures in that Velomobile. So we will talk about that another time. But
you should get him on. You should get him on
yeah,
the air.
I would love to have Jason on.
Quite a
Jason,
character.
if you're watching, contact me, buddy. All right, now we're going to talk more specifically about Rolling Orange and the tours. So when the time comes that you can start tours back up, this is some of what you'll be able to offer. This is an older shot, I think, of the old tours. Yes.
Yes, that's from the tours when we were at our other address. But man, boy, do I miss this. This is a group of about 25 Dutch people doing a Brooklyn Manhattan tour, and that's Daniel, one of our guides in the yellow, describing Cobble Hill to them. Okay. And I would go out on the road and meet the groups just to make sure everything was okay and everybody's happy and there's no bike problems. And then I'd be off on my way to greet them later.
All right. And now updated, we're going to there's a couple of tours that you have on the website that you talk about. And we're going to talk about two of them here anyway. So we'll see a map and we're going to see a shot from it. What is this tour?
So this is a Brooklyn Manhattan tour that starts, I think that's our new space. Yeah. It starts in Carroll Gardens and goes through, around the Brooklyn waterfront. The shot towards the line to the left is the Brooklyn Waterfront Greenway, which is pretty much car free all the way to the Manhattan Bridge, to Dumbo, the Manhattan Bridge, which is the line at the top that crosses the river. And then Chinatown, Foley Square, and back over the Brooklyn Bridge and back to base through the beautiful neighborhoods of Brooklyn.
Let's see a shot from that. I think the skyline there.
Right. That's on the way to the Manhattan Bridge. And that's Brooklyn Bridge Park, which is a brand new park on the water where you have just incredible views of New York City. However, tourists who don't ride bikes never get to see this stuff.
But they will on a Rolling Orange tour, won't they? All right, let's go to the next tour. That looks familiar. Central Park?
Central Park, yes. So we have a second space at the youth hostel on 103rd Street where we have a container in their backyard, and we did the Central Park tours from there.
All right, and there's a shot.
And that's the San Remo in the back, and that's the reservoir. What Jackie Onassis Reservoir. They changed the name of it. I don't even know what they changed the name to, but it's the Jackie Onassis Reservoir for me.
All right, and there is that wonderful tandem again, and this is kind of representing the variety of things that you have to show people at Rolling Orange and when they have a chance to come and see you, Shelly. So I want to thank you for taking some time to catch us up on what's going on with you and Rolling Orange. I'm so glad to see that you're moving along in the recumbent business now, and hopefully with COVID, eventually we'll be getting under control and you'll be able to have this tour company take off too. Maybe I can come visit. I would love to do that, pal.
We would love for the rest of the country to put their masks on so we could all go back to work, because we're really getting tired of not working, man. It's really starting to take a toll on everybody.
Yeah. Well, let's hope we can get that done. So Shelly Mossey, thanks a lot, pal. We will talk to you
Gary.
soon. All right. We'll see you.
Have a good one.
Folks. You too.
Stay well.
Okay, guys. Let's I'm gonna put up a question here. When are the women coming on? Yes, well, right now, we are going to introduce someone who is incredibly patient. Let's bring Jane Knight up onto the stage. Jane, thank you for being so patient today. How are you?
Tired.
It's exhausting. It's exhausting. Just sitting there. Very good. Well, Jane, folks, I introduced the idea of having Jane on earlier in the show. We are so glad that she is with us today. She is a wealth of knowledge about all things recumbent. She has a bunch of them. She's going to show you a few of those that she has and talk about some of the things she has done. And then I think she's going to actually bring Doug up and have a little conversation with him about something of interest to us and to ladies as well. So, Jane, I'm going to go ahead and we'll start the slideshow, and I'm going to let you take it from here.
Okay. First of all, thank y'all for waiting for this segment for us recumbent riders that are of the female sex. Let me introduce myself, starting off, and give you a little feel for what I'm in recumbents for. When I was 22, I was in a near-fatal horseback accident. When I woke up after 16 days in a coma, I was totally deaf and totally blind. But slowly some of my vision did return, but I was deaf for 7 years until I received a cochlear implant. And now I'm mildly hearing impaired. I'm more like a selective hearing. But okay. But the biggest impact of it was I had no balance. I was doing good to walk on a treadmill because I had the rails to hang on to. But basically, for 25 years, I sat there. It was excruciating. I had been very active before the accident and started over from square one. But one day, I was on the computer, and lo and behold, there was a recumbent trike. And I looked, and the lights went off in the attic. And I said, I bet I can do that. So fast forward, today, I now have 6 trikes.
Let's get started with those slides if we could. Let's go ahead and look at some.
Okay. I have 3 Cat Trike 700s, and that's my service dog, Sweet Pea, on it. She's a sweetheart. I have 3 Cat Trike 700s. I have 2 Cat Trike Speeds, and I have a Terra Trike Tandem Pro. It's tons of fun. That's Red Baron. He's on my trainer. I got started in 2008. I was very curious about who was there in Texas that had these things. I'd like to meet other people to ride. So slowly, the Texas Recumbent Riders came to be. And we are a loose-knit group, but we have over 500 riders in the state. Great group. But that snowballed into me starting the Heart of Texas Recumbent Rally and Rodeo.
Next shot, please, Trey. I think you have, those are the,
that's a group. Hi, y'all. Those are my friends. But I say rodeo because, yes, we're in Texas and we do like rodeos. But instead of horses, we did it on trikes and bikes. Tons of fun. But today I am the moderator for the Texas Recumbent Riders Facebook page, the Recumbent Ladies Facebook page, and the Recumbent Tandem Trikes Facebook page. So that's pretty much up to date. In the past few years, I've become very interested in the Senior Olympics cycling competition. And okay, I know you girls. Racing? Are you kidding? Most of us don't give a flip how fast we ride, me included at times. But unfortunately, I'm not one of those super people that go, I'm going to do something and then just stick to it like butter on a knife without having a reason. And I said, the Senior Olympics are my reason. I can do this. So I started loose training, and it has snowballed. And now I ride 30 minutes every day on one of my Cat Trike 700s that I have on a trainer religiously. Alex Trebek and I have a 30-minute day, 5 days a week, while I watch Jeopardy while I ride. When I'm really feeling good, I'll put on the MP3 player and tear out. There's nothing quite as exciting as riding to Uptown Funk or December 1963. But I'm no idiot, no ZZ Top, LaGrange. Not going to happen. But I, unfortunately or fortunately, I do 99% of my riding on an indoor trainer. Most of us are real experts at finding a reason not to drag the trikes out to ride. It's too hot, it's too cold, it's been raining, I don't want to have to put on my clothes, I don't want to put on a helmet, blah, 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 blah. The beauty of an indoor trainer is t-shirt, get on the trike, turn on the floor fan, turn on the ceiling fan, and turn on the TV or MP3 player, and you can tear out for 30 minutes. I ride very hard. I ride on the higher gears, and I go at it 30 minutes without a break. So it's been good. The result? I've dropped over 50 pounds, and I'm in the best health that I've been in since I was on the tennis team in high school. And I wasn't on that good of health in there. But anyway, so I have been rather consumed with the senior games. It is somewhat different for me because a hearing impaired and vision impaired woman, I have about as much business going fast as I do with scissors. Not real smart. However, I take it very seriously, and I am working very hard to get to where they don't have to time me with the calendar and they can use a stopwatch. And I'm about there. It's real good. And I'm very excited because Arkansas is dead on. We're going to go for the senior games this year, September 18th through 20th. And Gary Ebert, who's pictured here, fantastic. He opened the Arkansas cycling up to recumbents last year, and he includes bikes, trikes, velos. We're in the 5K, 10K, 20K, and 40Ks. He's just opened his arms big to us, and it was a ball last year. It was just tons of fun, and I will be back. But girls, let me tell you, I know racing is out of a lot of our realm, but it's not really. It gives you a reason to get up, get on that trike every day, and go for it. And the icing on the cake, I have met the most incredible people through this. I'm a big groupie. I think the racers are rock stars. I feel like getting their autograph. I just have a ball with them. It's just a ton of fun. But consider it. Unfortunately, girls, I know a lot of us have e-assist, and you can't have e-assist in the races. I'm sorry about that. Doug would probably, Greg would probably try and get it for us. But until then, who needs a better excuse to get a second trike? Think about it.
There you go. That's true.
I hope you can join us with this. But now that's the brevity of it. What I want to talk to y'all today about is something that just was brought up to me in the early spring about the length of your current arms. You know, your pedals go on, and I go, huh? Well, bottom line, most trikes are fitted for men and have 170 millimeter crank arms on them. Well, I'll have Doug Davis, who is a genius. I am such a fan of him. He's a really great guy. I'm going to have him explain it more.
Let's see if we can find him. Doug. Oh, lucky, there he is.
But I'm pretty well convinced that shorter crank arms are going to make my life a whole lot better. Now, if they'll mop the kitchen and clean the bathrooms, we're in luck. But anyway, I would like, Doug, please tell us, girls, how our lives will get better with shorter cranks, me included. Go for it.
Doug, you're going to have to go for it with your mute.
You know, I've always, because I don't want you to hear me talking about you behind your back. So, you know, I haven't seen a crank arm mop the kitchen yet, but that might be a good way to do a little bit of workout. So, as Jane said, the average bicycles and things are set up with what the industry considered standard cranks at one point in time. And it's actually an interesting historical study because it dates all the way, the lengths that we have today on cranks date all the way back to the penny farthing bikes and what was necessary to lever that big wheel around, and they really haven't changed a whole lot. Back in in those days, you were just supposed to muscle through things. Well, we don't have to do that now, and with recumbent bikes, muscling through isn't necessarily the best way to solve for the energy transfer problems. So a couple of quick things on this. Before anybody goes down this road, I want to clear something up. A shorter crank isn't going to give you any more power. So I want to make that abundantly clear right away. Power is how much energy you can push into the pedal. It's not about the crank length or anything like that. There's some leverage dynamics because there's a bunch of levers in a bicycle and a recumbent, but the power, people say, well, if I get shorter cranks, will I go faster? Not necessarily. What a shorter crank can do, though, is open up some angles that you may not have been able to use before. It will also let you, typically increases your cadence. And as we know from riding recumbents, cadence matters. And a good analogy of that is when if kids these days haven't seen this so much, but if you ever had a standard transmission car, which a lot of us started out life with, you didn't start out in second or third gear because that was harder on the engine. It made it work harder, and you had to push the accelerator down. The same thing happens in recumbents when you're having to accelerate. A higher RPM gets more power into the drivetrain faster. This matters for acceleration. This matters for climbing, and that's where these shorter cranks can matter for somebody whose legs aren't quite as large as the guy that they originally designed the 175 millimeter cranks for on his penny farthing. So we do a lot of study on this. You can go to the Google and you can go and look up crank length and power, and there's probably 1,000 articles that will pop up of people with different opinions on this. And what we have found through bike fitting people is that the crank size makes a difference in how smooth their pedal stroke is. And I've talked about this on the show before. A smooth pedal stroke matters to getting the energy into the drivetrain. Swapping the boom around gets rid of energy. You don't want that. You want it as smooth and quiet as possible. And that in itself can make a difference in how fast you go or how quickly you climb. And from that perspective, we use some tools here in the shop. Other shops have similar tools, but a bike fit can really help getting somebody that has adjustable cranks and letting you do that. Typically, though, you're not if you're not 6'1" or 5 foot, was it 5'8" to 6'1"? The 172 to 175 millimeter cranks are probably not the best fit for you, although anybody can operate them. You might want to start looking toward smaller cranks. There are different ways to test this to see if they work better for you, but you can kind of also listen to your body, and if your knees are hurting after a ride or your quadriceps are hurting after a ride, and all else being equal, the crank size might be making a difference, that you might want to look at that.
Very good. All right, let's bring Jane back up there. Jane, what do you think?
Okay, Doug, tell me, what process do you go through finding the right cranks? I mean, you don't want to have to go out and spend $120-something for the kind of that you can move the crank length on. How can you get tested? I mean, are there tests? Are there machines that'll do it?
Yeah, so there's lots of ways to do this. There are devices that you can buy that will shorten cranks, and you can experiment with them. They're not terribly expensive for the little triangular shaped ones that you see on the back of tandems that let you shorten and lengthen cranks. Changing cranks on most trikes and bikes is very easy. And then you can get, if you can find a cycling studio like ours, or somebody like that that's familiar enough with the systems, you can get what's called a spin scan done, where you have a adjustable crank that's fitted onto the front of your trike, and then a machine that kind of watches your pedals, and it looks at the effectiveness of your stroke, and shows you from top dead center all the way to bottom dead center how much power you're producing. And on the flip side, it shows you how much retraction you're getting. And you can experiment with different sizes by adjusting these to see where the point is where you get the nice smooth circles which you're trying to get out of it, that maybe your body more naturally wants to produce at a different crank length than what came on the trike.
Okay. I want to do this. Can I come to your shop and have this done?
Well, as soon as Governor Abbott lets us do it, yeah. I mean, right now we've had our studio closed because of the COVID thing, which has been immensely frustrating because not only is it stuff we can't do for people like this, but I've got a big open spot in the store right now that's just costing me rent that we can't use. But yeah, I mean, that's the idea is we have all the equipment here. A lot of the bike shops do. We're not unique in any stretch of the imagination that way, that can set up and let you experiment with it. With your cat trikes, for example, they're standard cranks. We can pull them off and put our adjustables on, and then you can set and spin through different sequences. So we'd started at maybe 172.5, which is about where it would probably came from the factory, and work your way all the way down to 140 something, and look at each interval and see what came out, and then we can recommend something. What's interesting about it is you may be you're what, 5'5" or so. We may find that 165 cranks work perfect for you. The next person that's 5'5", we may find that 145s work for them because their hips don't quite extend as much as yours did. Or we may find that 172.5s work perfect for them. It's such a unique thing when it gets down to this, and your body dictates as much of it as anything else.
Let me pop in here with a comment kind of question from Gogo Chem. I am 5 feet 10 inches. 32-inch inseam woman riding an HP full suspension 26 e-assist. Maybe I need to look into this. Cool, good info. Tell me again where to find this testing. Well, I mean, so the testing's at a bike shop.
Yeah.
And she did follow up with, oops, sorry. She lives in Illinois, and they consider bike shops essential so they don't shut down. So the recommendation, Doug, would be go to her bike shop.
Find a bike shop that has a fitting studio. And that's the big thing, because not all bike shops have this. It takes a bunch of square footage to have this, and either the owner's insane like me and actually wants to do this kind of stuff, or they've got enough people running through that makes it money for them to survive on. But you need to have somebody that has not only the knowledge but the equipment to do this. If you want it done professionally. If you don't necessarily need it professionally, you want to experiment, by all means, grab a couple, 3 different size cranks and take off and see how you feel.
I know Jane was going to ask this question, but here's Kathy Sullivan. Jane, I'm sorry. And you can tell me if you were going to ask it anyways. Average cost of replacement crank arms. How much do crank arms cost? I know she was going to ask that.
So
there you go.
That depends so much on on the kind and the type and the manufacturer and the brand and the specs and everything else. I mean, you can go from a fairly inexpensive $30 to $40 crank arms from some Sunlight or any of those, all the way up to several $1,000 carbon fiber, lightweight crank arms like we have, like I've got on a couple of my bikes that I race with, and anywhere in between. And so what I've told people that can't come to the studio or trying to experiment with this is just buy a handful of the inexpensive ones if you want to, because for $100 you can get 3 or 4. Especially we have the e-assist question right there. If it's one of the e-assists that uses the unicycle style crank arms, they're really inexpensive, and a bike store can get a hold of them for you. You have a little tool that pulls them out, and you can bolt on different sizes and try them, and they're like $20 each. And so yeah, you could, and then when you find the one you want, then consider going to one that's maybe stiffer or a little bit better quality and things like that.
And speaking of the Arkansas Senior Games, there's Greg Ebert, who pops in and he says, "Hi Gary, Doug, Jane, and everyone. Great job today. Thank you." So Greg, good to see you again, pal. Go ahead, Jane. You have another question?
Okay, this may sound a little silly, Doug, but is it just a matter of simply changing the arms? Do you have to change anything else around the system to make a shorter pedal work? I mean, you just take the arm off, put the arm back. What's involved?
So on most three position crank where they have the bottom bracket and the cranks, it's really a matter of taking the arms and screwing everything back together again. It's not a major process. Some trikes, some bikes come with all sorts of different crank arm assemblies, and you may have to replace everything if it's a welded bottom bracket version like some of the Sun trikes we've seen have, and the whole thing has to come out, and you've got to put a whole new system back in, and that can be more challenging. But most of the name brand kind of recumbents that we ride out there, they're all 3-piece systems, and so you can take the arms off of what's there and put them back together again. It'll have 5 little bolts on the side with the chain rings that you've got to unscrew and take out, replace the arm, plus the arms themselves.
Jane and Doug, Nancy Sanford has chimed in and says, so it doesn't matter if they test on an upright or recumbent. I'm wondering if that's the case. What do you think, Doug?
So yes and no. It matters some because the recumbent position, the supine position, particularly on a bike like a Cruzbike or a Bachetta or something that has a very high bottom bracket, is going to have physiological differences in how your body pushes against the pedals and how the retraction and flexors work. So it will matter. The good news is almost every bike shop that has these kind of systems, the little optical systems that we use and what have you, they're just a puck. And you can move them around and set them down under anybody's cranks. It won't matter what kind of bike it is. I could go grab one off the shelf right quick and you can see, but it's basically it's basically a little camera and a photo system that sits, it's about yay big around, and it sits down on a puck, and it just literally sits underneath the cranks and can see what's going on. And that's all you have to do. So if you talk to the bike fit shop, if they have, one of the really high-end computerized professional road bike kind of things, that's not going to work. What you're looking for, somebody has got one of the cycle scans or one of these things that has all the little individual pieces. Roll your recumbent in there. They may have a few moments of panic, but after you show that it's really got bike parts on it, then they'll be okay. And you can say, stick the puck underneath the cranks, just like you do on any road bike. You might have to set it. I think when we had one situation with a high racer, we had to set it on a little table so that we'd reach up enough to where it could see the cranks moving around.
And and our friend Julie Lovegrove from Great Britain, I opted for 165 cranks when having my recumbent built, and I'm happy with them. And I think Julie had a video or posted some pictures I remember seeing a little while back. So hi, Julie. Mark, how you doing? Very good. All right, go ahead, Jane. What else?
Okay, last question. Should we be aware of the different qualities? I mean, what is the difference in performance of a? It sounds silly.
Well, no, there's some legitimacy to the question. So yeah, and now in everything bike, the more money you put in, the more performance you're supposed to get out of the parts, but it's a very high exponential curve. So an inexpensive version of say Sunlight pedals, they're going to weigh a bunch. They're going to be alloy or even steel. So you're going to add a bunch of weight. And yeah, I know anybody adding weight to a human powered vehicle, we don't like that. So you necessarily may not want to end with that, but you might do that somewhere in the experimentation phase. What happens above those levels is you get alloy, you get aluminum, you get carbon fiber. All of those have characteristics that may matter to you. Some of them are hollow alloy ones are fairly popular in a road bike, where you see see things like that. The Dura-Ace and the Ultegra groups are all like that. How much does that matter in a dollar per performance? That's a good question. If you're doing everyday riding, probably not a whole lot. If you're gearing up to go to the Arkansas Senior Games and you're going to be in with a bunch of people that are also gearing up and going after, it might be worth that money to get the carbon fiber cranks so you can go a little faster and transfer just a little bit more energy to the drivetrain. That can be an expensive proposition, but racing bikes are expensive, and they're that way for a reason, of all the science and effort that's gone into making them fast.
Very good. All right, Doug, I think we are going to send you back for right now, and I'm going to finish up with Jane. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
We appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Send him back. And Jane, let's wrap it up then. Thank you so much for coming out. Wonderful segment. And go ahead. I want to give you the final word here. Tell us what you have in mind for maybe future segments.
Okay. Like I said, girls, remember Arkansas, Little Rock, September 18th through 20th. The beauty of it is there's a beautiful Arkansas River Trail we can ride there. Just fun. It's just a fun time, and it gives you the reason to do it, to just get out and ride. I know, like I said, a lot of us are pretty good at making up excuses, but we can do it. And that's about it for this time. But I want to first on Teresa Mitchell, happy birthday, and get out and ride your age. It's 16, right? But I want to, Gary, I want to thank you for having us on here. The women recumbent riders have a lot of questions that we don't get answered easily from the men, and I'm hoping this will change. Women are really becoming a force in the recumbent world. But anyway, thank you for having me, Gary. I appreciate it. And bye, girls.
All right, Jane, it's a pleasure having you on. We will see you again and stay in touch. Have a good one. All right, thanks. All right, guys, let's move on to thanking our wonderful sponsors for the Laidback Bike Report. First of all, TerraCycle. From fairings to headrests, whatever accessory you need, Pat and crew have you covered. And trailside.bike. Trailside.bike. If you find yourself in Florida near the Withlacoochee Trail, stop in and see Andrew and his crew. And Cruzbike. Their patented race and record-proven front-wheel drive geometry changes the rules of cycling. Now, comfort doesn't come at the cost of performance, but fair warning, your cheeks may hurt from smiling. And TerraTrike. Wherever your ride leads, TerraTrike has a trike to take you there, including KMX carts and now Greenspeed, known for performance through innovation. And the Hostel Shop. Established in 1974, the Hostel Shop leads the way in providing recumbent bikes and trikes to cyclists across the nation. With over 4 decades of industry knowledge and cycling expertise, we're more than just another bike shop. All right, guys, quick viewer submission from our pal Ferg in Cincinnati. He got a hold of me and Trey earlier last week, looking for a used recumbent bike. He already has a trike. He wanted to try something on 2 wheels. Ferg notably also had ridden a unicycle for many years. And so we started looking for something for him, looked at a couple of stick bikes, and then talked about a Cruzbike. Couldn't quite find anything in his price range, but as he started thinking more and more about it, he really fell in love with Cruzbikes. And any worry about him learning how to ride a Cruzbike didn't seem to be a problem because of his experience on a unicycle. So I got an email from him, an update on what happened, and let's show that picture. There it is. He got an S40, a brand new S40 Cruzbike that he is now riding. And here's what he says. I put this together this afternoon, and other than a little back brake rub, and he's working on it, it rides great. I got up and rolling on the second try. I can even start from a dead stop. A little shaky for right now, but that will get better. It's fun. And also noted that pedal steer is a thing, but once I get some miles on it, I'm sure that'll go away. I think I chose well. Ferg, you look great on that, pal. I'm glad you got the Cruzbike, and we hope you have a lot of fun on that thing. Keep us posted on that. So reminder, guys, if you've got pictures, stories, accomplishments, events you want to share, please send them to us, and we'll put them on the viewer submission section. Laidback Bike Report at gmail.com is how you can get a hold of us. I didn't have any announcements, but I do have this comment from BJ. Guys who watched, those of you who watched our show last month know that BJ Ondo won the Terra Trike contest for Riderfest. And here's his update. I will have a swap of my e-assist to the new Greenspeed GT20 rear suspension on the 24th of July there at Angletech in Colorado Springs. So he's looking forward to that first ride. So I guess that's the answer to the question, what he chose, the Greenspeed GT20 RS. So congratulations again, BJ. I hope you enjoy that Greenspeed. So, all right. What are we going to talk about next? How about the next Laidback Bike Report? August 16th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. I think we're going to finally get Mike Lecca on with his Velo Tilt that has been coming from Europe for a long time. He was supposed to be on in June, and then we had him scheduled for this show, and that didn't work out. He tells me it should be coming the next day or two. So by August 16th, he should have a chance to have it and play around with it, and we'll get a bunch of pictures, and we will be talking about this amazing Velo Tilt in that next Laidback Bike Report. Now, if you like what you've seen today, if you love what we do, how can you support us? Well, you can like us on Facebook. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. You can click that little white eye up in the corner there. And most importantly, if you can support us on Patreon. Now, you guys can see all of these orange P symbols here. These are Patreon patrons who have supported us on a monthly basis for as little as $1 a month. And we would love to have you as a Patreon patron. So please check that out, patreon.com. You can just look up Laidback Bike Report, or we'll have the link, of course, in the description below. So very nice. Oh, and let's see. Let me get this right over here. This is our latest Patreon, David Kavala. So thank you, David. It's great to have you being a Patreon supporter. All right, guys. I want to thank all my panelists and guests. Larry, can you bring everybody up we can find here? Let's see. Is that it? Yeah. Okay. We don't get to check out how many, if we get more than 6 now, although we're supposed to be able to. So thank you guys for helping us out so much. Jane, I'm glad you stayed with us the whole time. That was really nice of you. It's great to have you. And we thank all of our guests and our panelists for making today's show the success that it was. So thanks to them. Thanks to Brian Ball, Larry Varney, and the guys at BentRider. We appreciate all their promotional support. And most of all, thanks to all of you who are watching the report today. Thanks for supporting us and watching us on each of our shows. So until our next webcast, from all of us here at the Laidback Bike Report, so long, Bent Riders.